after I came back, after doing the Crazy Man thing, I said, if you don't want to call me the Fallen Angel, that's fine. I mean, because I sort of stopped doing that character. And I was like, if you don't like the name, if you need a reason to call me that name, even though it's just a name, like at that point, too, like, my mentality was, they were like, well, why do you call yourself a Fallen Angel? And I was like, well, at this point, isn't it just a cool name? I mean, everyone else calls me Fallen Angel. Why don't you just stick with that and not try to find, a motivation behind being called the name? I mean, no one was asking Ric Flair why he was the Nature Boy. It was like, what made him the Nature Boy? You know what I mean? It wasn't like he was carrying flowers to the ring or, helping woodland animals on his way to the ring. He was just the Nature Boy. So I mean, like they kept bugging me, like, oh well, why are you called the Fallen Angel? And I was like, look, if you don't want to call me the Fallen Angel, that's fine. But I mean, then they decided not to call me Christopher, and I was like, all right, well, yeah, I'll go with it. But
and trust me, as a fan, it didn't make any sense either. So,
right.
Okay. Moving on here, we were talking about Fortune a little while ago, and how did even Fortune come about? Because it was AJ, Beer Money, Kaz, and then Flair was managing it. I know Flair was managing AJ at the time. How did Fortune come about?
I guess the idea was that they were going to make a new age Four Horsemen that Flair was going to be the J.J. Dillon for, and so that was who they picked. That was actually at a period of time where I was gone. So, I mean, I wasn't even in the company at that point. But, they decided to go with, four top guys, and AJ was going to be the Ric Flair of that group. And so they grabbed Frankie, who they always, at that point had a good X Division mentality towards, or at least they wanted him to be the X Division leader. And then they put Beer Money together as the Arn and Tully. And that was the mentality, I believe. So, and the funny thing was, once they put together, I think they didn't realize what they had, because like those four guys as TNA original guys, they could have been like a lot bigger for the company than they were allowed to be.
True, very true. That's very true, actually. I can't even argue. I'm surprised they did not do more with Fortune, actually, because you're right, that's an epic group of people right there. So. Yeah.
I mean, even especially after, like, it was creatively because of other circumstances that forced them to sort of turn Fortune babyface. And once they turned babyface, like, they were as popular as ever. But once they turned babyface, they only ran with him for another maybe 4 or 5 months before they started planting the seeds of Beer Money breaking up and, me turning on AJ, that sort of thing. So, I mean, like, they could have ran with it for a while, I thought, but...
Yeah, I always thought that Fortune would be like a group that would stay together, and even if you went on singles careers, you guys would be like a big group, like the original Horsemen. I thought that was the point, but I guess they didn't have the same mentality.
Guess not. Yeah. That's one for your when you interview Vince Russo, you can ask him those questions.
Oh God, that would be insane. Oh my God. Well, you mentioned Fortune they turned on Immortal. What was it like being a part of that really weird big group of Immortal at the time? That was a really strange situation at the time.
Yeah, man, that all sort of happened before I got back. Like, the having Jeff Hardy being part of that, and Abyss, and Matt Hardy and Flair and all those guys. I sort of came into the situation like halfway through it. So I mean, we had an opportunity to do the Lethal Lockdown with those guys at Lockdown that year, but at that point they had started also splitting those guys off and sort of breaking that group all up. And so, I mean, it was good. It was fun working with those guys the short amount of time that I did. But, yeah, I was sort of coming in on the tail end of all of that, the Immortal, the group as a group.
Yeah, Immortal was it was a cluster app to begin with at the time. So I just wasn't a fan of the whole thing to begin with, and kind of took up a lot of TV time. But I wish they concentrated on more important things. Now, you and Kaz, bad influence. fantastic team. I personally loved you guys, even as you were a heel team. Once you got away from the AJ stuff, once you got away from that. Where did the whole Throwback Thursday stuff start from, and all stuff like that? Because I enjoyed that stuff.
Well, the first Throwback Thursday came about because we were in North Dakota. I was in North Dakota for a live event, and before the show, happened to go to a mall and found a Zubaz kiosk, and I instantly texted every wrestler that I knew and was like, "Hey, there's Zubaz here." And so, Frankie and I started talking, and he said, "Do we have the balls to wear this stuff on TV?" And of course, my answer was yes. And so the first Throwback Thursday was actually the Zubaz and the rag tops and the fanny packs, and we wrestled in that. And Frankie and I actually stayed backstage until right before the segment, so the guys wouldn't see us and make us change. Like they couldn't. We were going to go out as the Throwback Thursdays, no matter what. And so that's how it started. And then from there, we were like, all right, well, like when we did the UK tour a couple months later, Frankie and I decided we were going to wrestle in the kilts, and that was how we did the Braveheart scene on television. And then, then we went to Chicago, and we had the idea to be the Legion of Boom. And, it just went from there. It was, the idea was going to be, we were going to go to different towns and, if it fit, if it made sense, if it was entertaining, if it was something that we could do without, altering the business of every match that we were in, we were going to go out there and be entertaining. And that was something that we wanted to do. We wanted people to talk about Bad Influence. After a 2-hour show, we wanted to be the thing that everybody talked about. And so that was what we did.
Well, was there any throwback gimmicks that just didn't either make it on TV or work out the way you thought it would?
No, the ones that we did, the ones that made air, we thought worked out the way we wanted it to work out. There were a couple that we wanted to do that they wouldn't let us do, and so that was unfortunate. But just near the end, they didn't let us do one or two because they felt like it was gonna be too entertaining. Like one of the times they actually said, if you dressed up like that, you'll steal the segment. And we were like, we're not going to not do what you need us to do. We're just going to go out there and be us. But at that point, like Frankie already saw the writing on the wall. He knew that we were on our way out at that point. And I was still like, no, we'll come back around. They can only bury us so much. And I guess I was wrong in that respect.
Yeah, they actually used the phrase, "You'll be too entertaining, so don't do this gimmick." That actually came out of their mouth. Wow.
They actually said that to us, yeah.
Wow. If that's not a definition of the entire run of TNA, I don't know what is. Wow.
No.
Well, as you said, the writing was on the wall near the end. What happened at the end with TNA? Like, did your contract expire and they just didn't renew it? Was there kind of a dispute like with AJ? What happened there?
No, that was it. That was exactly it. My contract expired. They pulled me into the office one day. The last thing I did was one of the one-night only pay-per-views for them. And they pulled me in before the show. And John Gabor just said, we're not going to offer you another contract. We like your work, but, we're going to go in a different direction with different people. And we can't afford to keep you under contract for as little as we had planned to use you. You know what I mean? Like they could have kept me under contract, but in their mind they weren't going to feature me. They weren't going to put any focus on me. So it didn't make any monetary sense to keep me under contract. You know what I mean? It wasn't like, they could afford to keep me under contract. They just, in their mind, it wasn't worth the money to spend to keep me under contract and not use me. So
yeah, I get
that was their choice.
I get what you're saying. Big time on that one. In a weird way, it's actually a good thing. They're being honest about it in a weird way. But
yeah, I mean, I was disappointed, but I mean, at the same time, it's their decision to focus on the people that they wanted to focus on. And so I just never understood why they never decided to get behind Frankie and me as much as it seemed the people were getting behind us. If they were saying, "Oh, you guys are getting over too much as a babyface," or whatever, it felt like, well, they could have. They could have done anything they wanted with us. Like, we were there, and we were, at their disposal to use in any way they saw fit, whether that meant turn us babyface or split us up or anything. But they just decided not to use us at all, and that to me was sort of, it was disappointing.
Yeah, I remember, I think it was Bound for Glory, and I was watching the pre-show. I didn't order Bound for Glory, but I was watching the pre-show, and they had the Bromans beat you guys. And that's when I knew something was wrong. What's wrong here? Why the hell would they have the Bromans beat you guys? That didn't make any sense
at that point, too, I thought, all right, well, they're going to give, the Bromans an opportunity to sink or swim on their own. But at the same time, I realized that there weren't that many tag teams in TNA, and I felt as long as we continued to work hard and be entertaining, that our opportunity was going to come back around again. And that was the mentality that I sort of labored under from that Bound for Glory, which was October, until my contract expired, which was April. Okay. And like I said, at that point, Frankie sort of saw the writing on the wall, and he sort of figured that they weren't going to give us a chance, and I kept thinking, well, they have to give us a chance. There's no one else to give a chance to. And in the end, Frankie was right.
That's crazy. Yeah, I guess at the time also with the Bromans, I'm not a fan of Jesse Goddard's. I'm just not a fan of his. I'm almost like a Big Brother person, so I used to watch Big Brother, and so I don't like him personally.
That's fair. Well, I mean, and that was one of the things, though, I felt like Jesse, the people that did know him from Big Brother, he was using that knowledge of him to his benefit. And, he was working very hard at that point to become better and to do better and to sort of reach the status in the ring that Robbie had already had, because Robbie's a great wrestler and he's a great character, and he gets the good reaction. And so I think that's what they wanted to do, was sort of build Jesse up so that Robbie and Jesse could be a well-oiled unit. So I mean, I had no problem with that. I understood they wanted to give those guys a shot, and Jesse worked really hard to get better in the ring and was doing really good stuff near the end. But at the same time, I felt well, you need more tag teams than just one. And in January when they signed Davey and Eddie, I figured, all right, well, those guys need people to wrestle too. They can't just wrestle the Bromans all the time. And so our chance is going to come back around, and it never did. So,
well, when you guys left, though, how did you feel the state of the company was when you left compared to the way everything started? It was one of those. I felt like they were trying to rebuild and sort of, they were getting rid of certain guys, and they were, putting emphasis on other guys and sort of rebuilding their locker room. As I was leaving, they were signing new guys they signed Robbie E to a long-term contract. They signed this guy Brahm to a long-term contract. Literally, I think the day I left was the day they decided to sign him. And so, it was just a matter of, I felt like they were rebuilding, getting new guys in to take the places of guys like myself who were leaving. And so, it was just a state of flux. All right. Well, with Dixie Carter, do you have any hard feelings against her personally? What would it like to work with Dixie Carter?
I thought it was great. I always had a good time working with Dixie. She worked really hard to try and, when she was going to be in the ring, especially the stuff with us doing the Claire Lynch stuff, she took it very seriously. And I thought all the stuff that we ever did, I thought it worked out really well. And then once she turned heel at the end and started to become a character, she worked really hard at that as well. Because you have to understand, she wasn't a performer at the time, and so she's sort of thrown into the deep end by the storyline and the people that wrote the storyline out. They sort of threw her in the deep end for that in that respect, and so she worked really hard to try and get better and become better at that. And so I thought it was working out really well for her. So I never had any problems working with her. I always had a good time working with her, and she was always easy to work with, and we worked well together in terms of the in-ring stuff that we did.
Right. Well, I know yesterday, the day before, the Grantland interview came out with Dixie Carter. And the reason it came to mind is because she went and said that she feels AJ leaving was a mistake, even though now he's one of the biggest stars in the world. And TNA, it would be a sad state of affairs if TNA closed its doors. how do you feel about her statements when it comes to that?